Imagine you're recruiting for a new cook's position, and you have a choice between two prospects. The first one is a hot shot. Went to school, did well, probably the top of their class, can slice and dice like a ninja with precision cuts, knows all the terms, can cook, and I mean really cook, who's savvy with a saute pan, and knows the deal. Maybe worked in some really high-end places. The other person has okay skills, maybe clunky with the knife skills, doesn't know all the terms and fancy words for techniques, doesn't even maybe know all the techniques. They haven't been to a lot of kitchens and probably didn't go to school for this. So which one would you pick? Would it surprise you that as someone who has recruited for years and years and years, who has seen literally thousands of resumes, who's conducted hundreds of interviews, and I don't exaggerate, would it surprise you to know that I often chose the latter and not the former? Now you might be wondering, Paul, did you get dropped on your head a lot? Like what is wrong with you? Well, this was kind of an unfair question because I didn't qualify it. So I'm going to qualify it. The hotshot is cocky, arrogant, thinks they know more than you, thinks they know better, has no humility, and just wants to come in guns a-blazing. The person with the okay skills is eager to learn, knows that they have so much to do and to know and to soak in. They're a team player. They're passionate about what this is and what they can do. They're excited about what they can co-create and to build their skill sets and to really step into this position. And it may seem like a thought exercise, but believe you me, gentle listener, I've run across this scenario countless times, and I've never ever regretted picking the one who wants to learn. Because here's the deal. I can help you with your knife skills. I can help you with the techniques. I can teach you all those things. I can teach you, but I'll have to charge. Sorry, the milkshake song. But I cannot teach character. I cannot teach humility. I cannot teach being a team player. I can try, but often those who see themselves above that aren't willing to learn. They're not interested. And with that, welcome to Seared. This is another surprise episode. I had something that I had recorded a couple of weeks ago that I was just going to edit today and put it out. And I got a new computer. Huzzah. And as I was trying to find those files on the old computer, one was missing. I had 3 segments, one was missing. You don't need to really know all this. But nonetheless, I just want to give a little context to today's episode. But I will be talking about character. I will be talking about resilience and character. And just how important it is. Not obviously just for cooks or for it's just for anyone, right? That's how we work on Seared, right? We start with some cooking stuff, or we kind of dive in and out. But really, this is just about life, about personal growth. It's so important. And I think about my kids going out there. I have 2 teen boys. And I think about them going out, as they move out into the world and they go to post-secondary, they go for jobs, whatever it is. And of course, I want them to have skills and I want them to know things, etc., etc. But what's most important to me, and my wife, of course, is their character. I'm more interested in helping them develop that resilience and character that's going to get them far, because skills are great and they can help you get to where you want to go in terms of professional endeavors and careers. But character is what will sustain you. Character is what is going to open doors and keep doors open that skills cannot. And I think in this episode, what I'm going to share is just some of the people that I worked with and how they showed up on both sides, and what that means and how that can help you. You know, like the power of adversity, looking at limiting beliefs and all that kind of good stuff. So please stick around. This is going to be a great episode. Once again, I'm just going off the cuff, but you know what? These often end up being the best episodes. So stay close, stay tight, hydrate, stretch, pet the cat, pet the dog. Those aren't euphemisms. Go do it. See you in a second. Welcome back, my friend. So happy to have you here. Thanks again for chugging along on this choo-choo. I am thrilled that you are here. Believe me. Because you have character. If you're listening to this and enjoying it, you have character. That's what we're talking about. So what is character? Character, I mean, how do you describe it? I mean, you can look at philosophy and psychology and what perspectives there are. You could look at, good Lord, virtue ethics and stoicism, like existentialism, social learning theory, trait theory, humanistic psychology. They all have the answers and more. There's so many other threads that pull and can describe what character is. And I'm not that smart to go down those paths. To me, character it's a concoction of someone's moral stances, their compass, their qualities, their habits, some of their distinct quirkinesses and traits, their values, their beliefs, all that stuff kind of all blended together. And that little concoction, how it shapes and informs their behavior and identity. That's like their character. It can be, I believe it's a bit of nature, a bit of nurture, genetics, how you were brought up, what experiences you have, what's your history, your personal choices, the paths that you've chosen along the way. These all come down to your character. Like it's like you do you are you, boo. You're growing or you're contracting, you're living in integrity or you're stepping into shadow. And of course we vacillate between all those depending on the situation. But at the end of the day, when it comes to character, what dominates most? I could be a selfish prick, of course, at times, but I don't consider myself selfish overall. My dominant trait is not selfish. Part of my character is to give and to be of service and to give freely. But it doesn't mean that I'm not selfish at times. Character is not something that you can quiz necessarily. I'm sure you can get some BuzzFeed, like, if you're a character, what kind of cheese would you be? Would you be a Roquefort? Or character is not easy to nail down, but we know it. We know it. We know someone's character by how they act and how they speak to us, how they speak to others, how they show up. We know it. It's just we're in tune with other people. I don't have to explain character, even though I just try to. But we see it in so anyway. So here's some examples of so for those who don't know, I was a culinary instructor. I taught at a few colleges, but one in particular in the big city for a couple years. And I taught the traditional student route, the typical student profile, someone just out of high school or just maybe a year or two out of high school, maybe worked in a restaurant or two in their life growing up. It was very much me. That was basically me. I was older when I got into culinary. I was 23. I was a few years removed, but I had gone to, other schools and tried other things. But generally, it was like a younger student and, just interested in just playing around, etc. That was mainstream. But I had a few opportunities to teach during the summers, I believe. 2 different groups. One was women only, and these were prominently like new Canadians, immigrants. I don't like that word for some reason. Anyway, new Canadians, but also there was a mix of those who were, I guess, struggling, in a different socioeconomic situation. Sorry, it's not a great way of explaining it. But these were women who were older. They were older than me at the time. And many of them were mothers. I think all of them were. Some of them struggled with the language. Some of them struggled financially, et cetera, et cetera. So that was one group. The other group I taught was just a marvelous group. Loved them so much. I loved both groups, but these ones really stole my heart in a way. These were folks who had come from addiction, mental health issues, emotional setbacks, all those kind of things. And they were of varying ages, totally different, backgrounds. Some maybe have had run-ins with the law, others not. Mix of men and women. And they had a lot of support. They had a whole support team behind them. I was just teaching the culinary, plus I had helpers just to help handle those who were, struggling. And those 2 groups, I just want to compare in some way to the mainstream, because that's where I really opened my eyes. When I was offered these these chefing teaching positions, I had a bit of apprehension because I had assumptions being made. And but I did it because I was excited to teach, and I loved teaching. I still do, just in different ways. And what I found was the mainstream students, they were fine. They were young, and they were just doing their thing. But what I did find is that those who had done well in previous classes, those who thought they were the hot shots, those who maybe had done some outside programs, maybe in other countries, there was a certain ego around it, a certain bravado. And especially for those who had been working in restaurants and had picked up some of that bullshit machismo that comes with kitchens. And many of them, not all, and I'm painting very broad brushstrokes, so forgive me, because there was a lot of awesome students, and I've worked with tons of them. But many of them were very competitive. They were very much trying to look good, putting down each other, trying to get a leg up, being very demonstratively immature. And they definitely didn't want to look foolish. They would take risks. I don't mean serious risks, but they would take risks because they just didn't want to look weak. And it was challenging. It was challenging to manage that, especially the ego. Because again, I cannot unteach that. I cannot teach humility. I can model it, but I can't teach it. That's something that comes with maturity and experience. But what I found with the other groups, and this is where character really came in, and resilience and adversity, was that these groups, they were grateful. There was a lot of gratitude. They were humble. They weren't in competition with another. They supported one another, very much so, like very team-oriented. They saw goodness in others because they knew that they had stepped into their own darkness and had come out, or pushing to come out. A lot of these students struggled, but in plain sight, as opposed to quietly, because of pride. And they didn't fear looking bad or whatnot. They were past that kind of surface stuff. And they weren't afraid to ask questions or to look foolish or to stumble, which are all great. They're needed for growth. Again, whereas the others might blame others, blame the equipment, blame their tools, blame me, or their conditions or whatever was convenient. And I don't say this with judgment. It's just observation, because I very much have been like that. Listen, while I was teaching, I was in my darkest moments at the time. I mean, there was, I was drinking and I was struggling with a lot of things. So there was no shade being thrown here, just observations. But character can be felt and seen and experienced. And we know, when you're with someone who has high caliber character, and when you're not. Like, we know when we're ourselves, when we're acting like a bit of a buffoon, or when we're standing in integrity and a higher version of ourselves. What I loved about these groups, and of course everyone struggles with something. I'm not saying that they own struggle, but what I loved is that they had already overcome adversity in so many ways. They were older, they were more mature, they'd struggled in ways that I probably could not ever imagine. And it's an adversity that can reveal your true character, right? In ways that comfort and privilege can't, right? It's the way that we grow and display our character at the same time. It's like building and flying the plane at the same time. Adversity is the fire in which we forge character. Sometimes adversity doesn't build it. It gets us more into victimhood, but for many, it builds it. It's like forging that armor. And challenges like that can force you to draw on your inner strengths and develop new coping mechanisms, ways that you never thought of before. And, watching people struggle and learn how to manage their emotions and pluck up their courage and their ability to overcome things, it's a joy. And that was one of the things I loved about teaching, was watching that happen. Yes, I'm going to show you how to cut a brunoise. Yes, I'm going to show you how to sweat off some veggies. Sure. Those are technical skills, but what was most important is the struggle around that, the limiting beliefs that would come up, the stories that would come up. I can't do this. I suck. These guys are better. We all have those stories in different ways around different challenges that we have, right? It's like having kids. Of course, with children, you step in when it's necessary, but sometimes it's necessary to allow them to stumble. That's the gift we can give them. Even for them, if it's hard for us to watch them struggle, but we know without that, like, we're taking away their gift, the gift of the struggle, the overcoming. And with these, different groups that I worked with, I mean, man, life was hard. You could see life was hard for them. There's financial strife, family issues, comprehension challenges, maybe language issues, cultural clashes, issues finding jobs, issues fitting in. But what I learned with them, one of the things I learned is that fitting in isn't what it's cracked up to be. I struggled. I was trying to fit in. I was drinking my way into conformity, but that didn't work. It takes courage to stand out. And while some of these folks didn't ask for it, they were still able to stand up in the space given to them and to thrive. So many of us cower in conformity and then wonder why we don't stand apart from others. There's safety in numbers, yes, but there's also a dullness about it that chafes at our soul even. Kind of like how, never mind. Insert chafing joke here. I had, oh God. Okay. There's someone this is so an aside. Please forgive me. I almost don't want to say it. There was a boss that I used to work for. And in his office, he kept like this box. I'm not talking like a box you get at the grocery store. I'm talking like a 5-pound case box size of cornstarch. And the first time you see it's like, why is there a open case of cornstarch? Well, if you've done a 14-hour shift in very hot, sweaty conditions with pants, you start to chafe in certain areas. And this guy would go into his office and we'd call it the dip and drag. Oh my God. So he'd be more comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you just gotta take care of house a little bit. The fruit of the loom roo, as we call it. Anyway, it's kind of gross. Okay, I'll shut up. So all of this, I'm going to get back on track here. So a lot of this is overcoming the way we think. So I'm gonna stop here. I gotta get myself together here, and then I'm gonna just talk a little bit about ways that you can help yourself to grow character so that you can overcome even more. So hang on. All right, welcome back, homie. I hope I didn't thoroughly disgust you with my cornstarch story. Actually, this is the gentleman I'm talking about is someone that actually I held and still hold in high regard. We all have our little quirks. We all have our little things, and he wasn't perfect. Neither am I. Neither are you. Look in the mirror. But he was a stand-up guy. At the beginning of this episode, I gave you the thought exercise between the two cooks. And it wasn't really a thought exercise because it's happened so many times. And I'll tell you, most of the time, 95% of the time, I never regretted picking the person who wanted to learn. Of course, there was a minimum, a standard that I needed. But I always joked that I'd rather instead of dealing with one of those hotshots who can be toxic and really upset a lot of people and upset the balance of things, and can really add to negativity, etc. I always joked I could probably get someone off the street and teach them how to be a chef, a cook. And those are the ones that almost always worked out. And it's not to say people can't change. Of course they can. But I was not interested in being the lab, the social experiment and watching. There was a business to run at the same time. And of course I loved mentoring and guiding. All to say that we all change in our time. Our characters constantly being built and rebuilt and torn down and adjusted. We are doing that. And one of the biggest things I want to share with you some of the things that help. One of them is overcoming limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not blank enough. I can't change my circumstances. I'm not smart enough. I didn't go to school. I'm not worthy of success. All these things can create a lot of self-doubt. And that can erode your character because you're not going to give yourself the chance to try anything or to do anything because you're going to be held back by these limited ways of thinking about yourself. And when you can create or develop a character that really steps into perseverance and self-belief and optimism, it's going to help you overcome these limiting thoughts. I talked about self-esteem. One thing to build self-esteem is to do esteemable things. To do the hard things, to do the things that scare you. So many times in my career, I'd look at what people were doing ahead of me. I'm like, oh my God, I could never do. Like I had those limiting things. I can't believe they do that. I'll never be able. And I would step into it. I would pluck my courage and do it, and then I would be great at it. I had to overcome the way of my way of thinking. Going to the chef with a specials idea, I'd be scared shitless. Or laying down a boundary for the first time, or challenging authority because you just know you're right. Stepping out of other people's shadows, owning your space. All of this takes practice. I'm continually practicing. I still get crippled with self-doubt. I still get all this. But I've learned over the years that I've been able to do hard things. And so have you. Just got to believe that you can keep doing it and forge that character that just knows that when something comes up, you can handle it. It's building that resilience. Some of the things that I do, and I know you hear this all the time. You probably heard it from me here too. A lot of these things are common because they work. That's the reality. It sounds boring a lot of times when I give tips and things like that here, because they all sound the same, and they are, but they work. One of them is practicing gratitude. Be grateful, for Christ's sakes. There's people there are people who have lost their homes in these storms. There's another big, massive Category 5 going to hit Florida. People are going to lose their homes, their livelihoods, their car, everything. And there are people who I know, not directly, but friends have told me, people who survived those storms and just chirping and complaining about stupid shit when their neighbors' homes have been blown away and or flooded out or whatever. It's amazing that we can get so caught up in our selfness. And it doesn't have to be something as major as that, but gratitude. Just practicing gratitude. Make a list for the love of Nancy at the end of the day, at the beginning of your day. What are you grateful for? It changes how you see the day. The other thing is just, mindfulness, staying in the moment. I'm guilty of being on my phone a lot, but there are times where I put it down and just sit and stare out the window, or sit in the park on a bench. I'll put my phone away and I'll just listen to the wind, or it's so hard for us to put our phones away or whatever it is we want to do. And sometimes the best part of my day, honestly, is when I've been meditating. When I look back at my day, it's it was so nice when I meditated. It was so nice when I just sat, or walked my dog and I wasn't listening to anything. I was just walking. I was just there with my dog, being present. So mindfulness, getting support from mentors or peers, practicing self-compassion, not being so hard on yourself. We're so hard on ourselves. And I say that hands straight up, chest full out. I am hard on myself. And that's something I want to work on, not need to. See, my language, I got to watch my language. I said it again. Always practicing. What did I say? When you can do these things regularly, it really helps with your stress, regulate your emotions, and really keep a keen, positive outlook. Having strong relationships with friends and family, or any support system. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be given your chosen family. It could be, or family you're born into. It could be chosen family. Leaning into others, leaning on others, and having them lean on you. Stepping outside your comfort zone, trying new things. It could be taking a class in whatever, something that you're not sure of. For me, it was rock climbing. Never rock climb. I was like, I'm going to try something and I went rock climbing and it was great. I don't do it now, but I know trying new things made me feel better. And also just what do you want? What are your goals? Do you have any goals? When you don't have goals, it's hard, you just get into a place of just existing. These are bigger concepts, but rest, relaxing. Are you moving your body? I mean, these are basics, but they work and they help to create, who do you want to show up as? That's the question. That's the real question. Who do you want to show? Do you want to be that person who whines and bitches and moans and complains and all that stuff all day, every day? You know who you're going to attract? People who bitch and moan and whine and complain every day. That's who you're going to attract. And you're going to get into this cyclone and this cycle and bubble of this negativity. Or do you want to be the person who others depend on? People trust, people look up to, people model themselves after. I'm not saying be perfect. I'm not saying be this movie, star character where they're nearly perfect. I'm not saying that. Who do you want to do you want to be a model for your kids, for people in your community, your friends, your neighbors? You can do that. It's your choice. It's a decision, regardless of how you grew up, regardless of your current circumstances. You have a choice in how you want your character to come through. You get to build your character. You get to forge it and craft it and tailor it. It's a lovely thing. And that opens doors, like I said, and that keeps doors open. Someone who has character, who I can see, who I trust, they get my vote in terms of inviting them into my life, whether it's professional or friendship or whatever, collaboration. It's character. And you just know it. And if you can sense it from others, they can sense it from you. So what are you doing to forge and build that character? What are you doing to feed it, to foster it, to nurture it, to nourish it? Some big questions. Anyway, something to think about on this day that you're listening to. I don't want to give dates. It makes it sound dated, but we are in 2024. With that, if this has helped you in any way, please share this, like, comment, subscribe, review, whatever. Any interaction would be great. It really helps with it being shown more. And also don't forget, check out You Are Gumbo, different kinds of vids. That's where I play. That's where I have a little bit more fun, but also inspire and just teach. And, it's still a fairly young YouTube channel, but I'd love if you could get in on the ground up and support that as well. I know I'm asking a lot. You can only do so much, but I appreciate anything you have. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. And kitchen's closed. Now scram.